Well, hi again there, listeners. Seems like a long time since we had a little chat. It's nice to be talking again, although I feel like I do a lot of talking at home and elsewhere in the world. But it's great to be talking to you guys, and I'm actually very glad you're listening. But I want to change things up a little bit. Last time I know we spoke about the endemic birds, and then we also spoke about the beautiful sunbirds. But it's just the other day. I was in one of the parks, and I looked to the left and I saw this um, marabou stork, and I thought, my goodness, it's such an ugly bird. I thought to myself, I love birds. Don't get me wrong. I looked at this thing, it's about time I really spoke about some of the I hate calling them ugly birds, but different birds. And I looked at that marabou stork, and in fact, it was remarkable. And the more I get to know about the marabou, the more remarkable it really is. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a little chat about the marabou stork. Um, a lot of people think it's got that Walking Dead look about it. You know those movies you get on Mnet and other places, Netflix. The Walking Dead, I'm chasing you. This when it walks around, it looks a bit creepy, and it's also been known to be called the Undertaker bird. Once you've seen it, then you'll know exactly what I mean. It's certainly distinguishable from any other bird, especially if it walks around with a stiff neck and that look on its face. The Undertaker bird. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. The marabou stork. Well, I'm going to do my best to try and explain really what it looks like. You need to look at one of the books that I've been speaking about, or anywhere in the web. Just have it, just have a look at it, and you'll see exactly what I'm trying to get through to you. The Latin name, it's got nice long two Latin names. Well, I hope I'm going to do this right because Latin sounds a lot like Greek to me. So here we go. Leptoptilus criminiferus. I was never a scientific guy, but anyway, if you understood that, then I'm not doing too bad. But the part of the leptos, as I've read it, is not something I know, but I just sort of know this stuff because I have been reading about these birds for quite a while. But I know that leptos does mean slender, and the adjoining word to that leptot Ptilon, I think it means a wing. And part of the second word is crimino, which means like a small money purse. Well, these bags that sort of usually hang around the neck of the person. And that's exactly what this bird looks like. It looks like it's got quite a big money bag hanging from its neck. They're about 1.5 meters tall, and they're at least about 6.5 kgs. And in other words, it's quite a tallish bird, eh? It has a very pink sort of a naked head and neck. There's no feathers. It looks like a bit of a vulture, and well, it eats the same type of carrion as well. And it has this huge, like orangey red air sac that hangs below its neck, well, on its neck. And sometimes it can get down to about 350 millimeters long, which is hanging from its neck. It actually uses this as a cooling mechanism, or when it's looking for a babe in the woods, for a female, it'll use that for courting. And it's also got a fairly biggish, long, wide beak, and quite hard and fairly sharp. But this little red air sac that it's got, sometimes it's partly hidden underneath on its neck, there's like a white ruff over there where it's at the base of its neck. And only when it starts inflating it does it come out and you actually see it. As I said, it uses a lot in courtship. It has these beautiful black wing feathers, and it's got a very big wingspan. It's about 2.5 meters long, and its belly is also white. It has these very, very long legs. They're thin legs, but they always look white because they're normally black. But they always look white because it actually drops excrement on its legs, because it actually forms a little sealant on its legs, and it helps with the cooling. So it's actually thought that it does this as it is a process used for cooling as well. It opens its beak, and sometimes when it really gets hot, You'll see it opening its feathers and sort of standing there with his feathers, wings, with his wings extended. But that big bag that hangs from his neck is also used to help cooling. It can almost be found in most of southern Africa, a bit north from the Northern Cape and the Eastern Cape and the Free State area. It's a very sociable bird, and you'll see them in groups sometimes. They mostly feed on carrion, as I said, and you'll find them in either semi-arid areas or wet areas, and they hang around a lot at game reserves and parks because they tend to sort of hang around where the lions or jackals or something has killed a bit of game. It'll come in there where the vultures come in. It's got a very strong dag-like beak which can poke holes in the carcass, which helps some of the other animals to actually get to the carcass, or the carcass can decompose a lot quicker. But it can't really cut with its beak. But you'll see it sort of walking around the outside when the vultures are sort of jumping in, or whether it's the lions, doesn't really matter. And it'll run up and it'll grab a piece of meat and pull it off the bone. And sometimes you'll see it with his head deep in the carcass. I mean, that's why it's got no feathers on his head, just like the vultures do. But I tell you what, an eater, it can actually grab up to about 10 kgs with one single bite. That's how big its beak is. It can actually take a big piece of meat like that and basically swallow it. Primarily, as I said, it's a scavenger, and it will also, funny enough, it's been known to kill, well, not kill, yeah, I guess kill baby crocodiles. It'll whip them up when it can, and it's also known to eat rats, mice, birds, fish, frogs, and those things. And it actually, what it does do, most of its life, it'll eat carrion because that's its primary meal. But when it starts feeding its young, you'll see that they'll both change to fish, frogs, and little living animals, because that's the only thing that's good for its its young one growing up. So by the time the eggs are hatched and the fledglings are there and the baby chicks are there and they're being fed by their parents, that's when they only bring and they'll only feed on frogs and fish and those type of things. Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. But that's very, very interesting in itself. As I said a little bit earlier, they are very sociable birds, and you'll see them when they haven't found a mate or they're sort of working around their own. They'll roost with other aquatic type birds that are around estuaries and that, or dams, and they'll sit there with the cormorants and herons, etc., and other storks on the side, up on a little branch somewhere. But they will mate for life. If they find a mate, they'll mate for life. But they don't have. The interesting is, they don't have a voice box, so they make these funny little croak noises. That comes from that little thing under their little bag under their on their neck, and they sort of open and snap open their bills, and they make a bit of noise with that as well. And so they will normally do this as well when they're trying to do a bit of courting with a female. Once he's found the female, they'll sort of gather wood, and they will form a. Well, he'll gather wood, and she will start putting it in place. So she'll find the site, and she'll put them in place, and she'll lay these things on a simple sort of platform, and right in the middle they put a little shallower cup, which they normally will fill with leaves and such like. Once they've sort of got it, but it's quite a biggish type of nest, obviously, because they've got to have their own eggs in, and they've got to sit in them and look after them. So they also go around looking at vacant nests, and they'll take it from any vacant nest that they find. You'll find out that once they've made their nest and they lay eggs in that, either male or female will stay at the nest. They won't move from that nest, because in case one of the other ones come by and start stealing wood from their own nest. So it's quite crazy. And they've been known to have nests about 1 meter apart, but they normally make the nests very high in trees, very high trees, and or cliffs, or even on buildings sometimes. Uh, but as I said, the great thing is they sort of they pair for life. They normally lay about 2 to 3 eggs a year, mostly during the winter months, June, July to August, around about there. It's a lot easier for them, and I think this is why it does happen, is the rivers and the dams are a lot drier, and it's much easier to find, fish and frogs and those type of things, especially when they got to find them to feed their chicks. The incubation period for their eggs is normally about a month, and the male helps with incubation, but he actually sits on the nest a bit longer because normally at night he's the one that sort of incubates all night. And the female sits during the day, and they sort of take times. And the young ones only sort of really reach maturity around about 4 years. So they kind of look after them for quite some time. And these birds are known, well, in captivity a lot longer, but in the wild, they live around about 25 years, so 25 years. But some have been known in captivity to listen to me, to live up to about 40 years. So there you have it. That's about all I can say about the bird. I have a few fun facts that I'll mention now, but as I said before, you'll find if you go to any game park that we have here in South Africa, up in the northern area, you'll find them around the dams. You'll see them, especially around areas where there's lion kills or vultures. You'll always see them sitting there, but they don't move much. The fun facts, as I said just now, one of them is that they're one of the laziest birds around, because most of the time you see it just stands. You hardly ever see them moving around. They kind of like stand there, and they really do look like they're gonna sort of bury somebody, really. They also, the other fun fact is they have these hollow leg bones and toes, which actually help a lot in their flight, because as they start flying around, they're very strong flyers. They're never known to do short little trips, but once they're up in the air, they actually fold their neck into the front, which helps them balance themselves out, and their legs go to the back as they fly. But they're very strong flyers, and they make, as I said, they make these basic nests high up in the trees or on cliffs or something like that. The other nice thing is about the bird that you'll get to know once you sort of see these birds. They're very attracted to grass fires. So if you see a big grass fire happening in one of the wild places, you'll most probably find one of these things flying just in front, and they'll scoop up any of the animals that are trying to escape. Small animals that are actually trying to escape from these, what we call them felt fires. The ones that are trying to flee. The odd thing is, and I've never seen it, but I actually read about this, that they actually feed on flamingos. So there's a new one for you. Right, folks, I think that's about it for now until the next time we have a chat. I thought we'd just change things a bit. And, I've given you all, as I said, pretty birds like the beautiful sunbirds and all these beautiful little birds that I keep talking about. And sometimes we forget about the big old ugly ones. But that's all we've got for now. And so until next time, I hope you go out and do a bit of birding on your own and really enjoy it. And this is from me, Big Al. Cheers.